What?
Five and a half bath house, 3 levels, including the basement, but it's only 3,400 square feet. And they go, no way. And I go, look,
How
I'll
did you
pull up the,
do that? Okay, you're an
well,
architect, so I
yeah,
wouldn't ask
exactly.
how.
And then I kind of brag a little bit and I say like, hey, like that's why you want to hire us is because we're
Yeah,
masters of space planning,
yeah.
which kind of ties back into what we were talking about earlier, Stephanie, about like, I knew even with my house, I didn't have unlimited funds.
Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through property, investment, and business. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
And we are live. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Bricks and Banks podcast. I'm here with my incredible guest. I told you he's the very first architect I'm ever meeting in my life. So this is my first architect guest ever on the show. And he's coming with a wealth of knowledge and wealth of insights in real estate, like we like to talk about on the pod. He's an serial entrepreneur, an architect, and a co-founder of F9 Productions Incorporated. Join me in welcoming Lance Cayko to the pod. Hey, welcome, Lance.
Yay.
Did I call your name correctly?
That's a
Lance
great
Cayko.
question. It's actually pronounced psycho, and that's okay.
Cayko. Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. When my ancestors came over on the boat, they
Okay.
thought they would try to Americanize Chadaiko, which is a
So is this the
Yugoslavian name.
original spelling or?
This is the American version of the spelling,
Okay, so how was
and
that
they
spelled?
didn't realize what psycho actually means in
Exactly, because
English.
I'm like, how did you
So,
cope in school?
yeah,
Because kids would definitely bully you for your name.
yeah, yeah. I really learned to embrace it.
Hmm.
My kids are starting to learn too, my children, because it's such a good icebreaker. It makes
Hmm.
people smile and laugh and giggle and kind of humanizes you.
Amazing. So you're a co-founder of F9 Productions Inc. Tell me what's F9 is all about.
Yeah, F9 is our architecture company. So
Hmm.
we started the company in the heart of the Great Recession. My
Oh,
business partner, his name is Al Gore.
okay.
After we graduated high school or college, he went to New York City and
Hmm.
worked for the very famous studio Daniel Libeskind, who did he's a very world famous architect. He was actually the architect who was commissioned to do the World Trade Centers after they were
Wow.
were destroyed on
Tried in
9/11.
2010. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know.
And so Al moved out there and then got laid off just like I did. I moved to Boulder and worked for Studio HT. Now they're
Hmm.
disintegrated too. But then I didn't want to leave Colorado. So what we did is I was able to find work on my own using
Hmm.
Craigslist, and I kind of fell back on my handyman work. But we created F9 as a sort of a reaction to all of the people that did us wrong, where these other architects were putting all their eggs in one basket. The ones that had us hired us before, where they would focus on just like very niche work.
Hmm.
And then there's other stuff just like poor customer service and stuff like that. So we started our architecture firm trying to do the opposite of what they did. We actually embraced the idea of advertising. We embraced
Okay.
the idea of trying to respond to customers in a timely manner and
Hmm.
customer service first, design second, that sort of thing. So starting in 2010 and now 15 years later, we've grown the firm from 2 people to 9 architects. We have 2 different
Wow.
locations. One's in Denver, one is in Longmont, Colorado, serving northern Colorado. And
Amazing.
we've done really well for ourselves in terms of the notoriety of really practicing what we preach, which is high level of customer service.
Hmm.
And that is evident in the fact that we've been a 3-time finalist for the Best of Mile High Award for Best in Architectural Customer Service. Two
Wow.
years, 2 years in a row, we won it, and this last year we were beat out by a wonderful gal who is I just met her actually last week, and we're going to start partnering in some work together. But she has
Nice.
a little bit more. She has a little bit better reviews than us online. Not that we
Hmm.
have any bad ones, but she just keeps getting more than
Yeah.
us. It's pretty awesome.
Don't worry, I'm sure you get more reviews right now. So what sort of structures does F9 focus on? Are you guys niche on specific property designs, or do you just do whatever your clients ask you to do?
Yeah, I'd say a combination.
Mm,
One of the really neat things about us is that we have niched, even though I sort of criticized it there and telling you about what we do at F9.
okay.
We've niched in multiple ways. It's just we don't do one. So
Mm,
one of the things that we did that's really, really unique and put us on the map is in 2013,
mm,
so we would only been in business for about 3 years. Alex and I got for us back in 2013, this would have been 12 years ago, a pretty high level commission to design a duplex, basically two houses that are attached to each other. And we were out celebrating. So he and I went out to go get burgers or something over in Boulder. And we're driving back and we thought to call on one of our best friends. His name was Blake. And he hated his job, but he had still a job. He was never laid off like us. He was an
yeah.
architect, but he's still just sort of this evergreen downer type of guy.
Mm,
And we said, hey, like, well, how much money do you got in your account? And he goes, like I was like 20, 30,000 or something like that. And we're like, well, if you hate your job so much, why don't you just quit your job and design and build a tiny house and just travel around the world or travel around the United States, like taking photos because you love to do photography.
yeah.
And he joked and he said, yeah, that'd be cool. And then we go, well, great. So we went home and we're very much doers. So we bought the domain name Blake's
Mm.
Tiny House and we made a little website and
Tinyhouse.com.
yep.
Is it
And
still active till today?
it is, yep.
Okay, so
And
I'll
so,
definitely link it on on the description of the video so the
oh, that'd be
listeners
cool.
can check it out. Okay.
Yeah. So we emailed him the next day and
Mm,
we said, hey, it looks like you're doing it. And he actually went along with it for a while, 3 or 4 months. And we worked over the internet basically and came up with different designs. And
mm,
we were trying to make a tiny house that on wheels, that was not like the other ones.
yeah.
So we were trying to make one like that had a lot of glass. It was modern. It kind of was like a transformer on wheels. And it got so much organic internet traffic and attention from places
Yeah.
like CBS, NBC, HGTV that we would get calls from these places and they would say, hey, are you guys doing this? We want to start filming a television show. And we were like,
Wow.
well, we're kind of doing it. And eventually the calls got so frequent and the traffic got so overwhelming that my business partner went down to the Denver like a home and garden show,
Mm,
and HGTV was there and they had a
wow.
tiny house and they go, we're looking for it at a big sign. We're looking for designers and builders who are going to design and build a tiny house. And I was like, that's us. He comes back to the office. This was like a year later, 2014. He
Mm,
comes back to the office and he goes, hey, I just signed us up to be on TV. And I go, what? And he's like, yeah, we're going to build the tiny house. And I'm
yeah.
like, what?
What?
And I was like, how are we even going to pay for it? And he's like, so we started scrambling and getting business loans. So
Mm,
that's how we ended up designing and building our first tiny house. And it was
wow.
so successful because we did an episode with HGTV. It's season 1,
Mm,
episode 13 of Big House Tiny Living, and it's called Alex and Lance's Amazing Foldable House. So we got all kinds of press. We won an International Architecture Award. We got in Dwell magazine for it.
wow.
And then Subaru saw it and they said, we want you guys to design 2 more and build 2 more, but we want them
Mm,
bigger, badder, better, all this stuff.
yeah.
So that's one of the ways we niched and then became notorious for that. But
Mm-hmm.
and then to kind of wrap up and answer to your question, we do a lot of stuff. I'd say 50% of what we do is single family residential, 20 to
Okay.
25% is multifamily stuff, apartments, townhomes, and the other 25% I call boutique industrial and small commercial design.
Oh, amazing. So this tiny house, are they built such like RVs that can be movable from place to place, or are they just stationary in one place? That's
Yes. Exactly. So if anybody's on our, interested in looking at the website and what we're talking about is,
uh,
if you go to our design build page, there's a
okay.
design build page on there that you can find under our portfolio.
Okay.
And they're tiny houses on wheels. So yeah, people can drive them all over the place and do all the things.
That would be great for camping. So when people just go camping, like, oh yeah, I'm coming to my house.
Yeah, it's like glamping. It's like,
Exactly. Yeah. And it would be suitable. Have you guys considered design for like a desert? You know, when people go on desert tours, they have places where they can sleep over and all that. Have you ever designed such for desert conditions?
Yeah, well, that's the coolest thing about the Atlas, the tiny house, the very first one, and that we built a couple more times for different people too after they saw it and they wanted replicas, is that it's a
Yeah.
fully self-contained unit.
Hmm.
So your water's all there, solar panels all there. It can collect its own rainwater and reuse it, all that kind of good stuff.
That's amazing. So how do you get to balance your creative ideas as an architect with the budgets from the client and client's expectations? Because sometimes the client is trying to build something out of space and you're looking at them
Yeah,
like, dude, it's gonna cost
yeah.
money. So how do you balance it out and also working with other team? Because I know that you would have to work with civil engineers and surveyors to complete your work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to figure out, right?
Mm,
And one of the things is, so we're also builders.
yeah.
So we will
Okay.
build for some of some of our architecture clients, not all of them. We
Okay.
actually build for a small minority of the architecture clients. But what that allows us to do then is, like, we're very much attuned to what things cost compared to most architects.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we use that knowledge to understand, like, where are our limits of what we can
Mm,
do so we don't go over their budget. But one big thing that I try to emphasize, not only to my architects that work with me and for me,
yeah.
but to my students too at the universities I teach architecture at, is that one thing a client can never take away from you that is very important to make sure you do the best job you possibly can is just the floor plan. So
Mm,
so no matter what, you're always going to be able to have, if you put the effort in and the talent in, a
yeah.
really good space plan.
Mm,
Because you can't take away that, right? We can take away the shiny materials, gold, silver, crystal chandeliers, all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
That stuff is easily taken away. But the bones of what you're doing are super important to nail and make sure you get right. And that's the space plan. That should be a timeless space plan to where they're
Mm.
hopefully not having to knock down walls and open up, like, let's say, a kitchen to a dining room later on because you've already designed it as an open floor plan, for example.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. So just taking a step back, when you shared your introduction and you shared about the achievements you've won, you've won several awards like your Architizer A+ award. Could you share like a behind the scenes look at one or the types of projects that have earned you these awards that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did already mention exactly that. The
Hmm.
Architizer Award was for that first tiny house.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
Nice.
But the other one I would love to mention is, it's called the Eastwatch House. It's probably our most famous house that we've done so far.
Mm,
And
okay.
it didn't get us an award, but it did get us on the cover of Builder magazine, which is
Wow.
a big deal. So that house is people can just Google it and they could just look up Eastwatch House F9 Productions. You'll find it all over the place. Again, it kind of went viral. It's in Dwell. It's in all of these different magazines
Hmm.
online. And we've had a lot of people that come to us now who see that house and they go, "That's what I want," but in their own version. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a little style that we're developing that's very regional to Colorado and vernacular. I was approached by those clients
Hmm.
in gosh, this would have been 2014 or 2015, a long time ago. And they had both been to Japan and they both had an affinity to Japan and Japanese style architecture and this thing called an Engawa. And the Engawa is this big, long, like, deck that kind of wraps around the house and has
Mm-hmm.
deep overhangs.
Yep.
And so that was a primary design feature that they wanted to make sure that we encapsulated.
Yep.
The coolest thing about that project was, I found out later, and this was like 5 or 6 years after it had already been built.
Hmm.
I kept in touch with the owner. He's a pretty good friend now, and we'll text here and there because when we do a new version of his house for a new
Yeah.
client, I'll be like, hey, this one's called South Watch Flow, or this one's called West Watch. Like, they're all in this series, and he just gets a kick out of it. And he goes, hey, and I can't remember how this came up, but he ends up admitting, he goes, by the way, we had actually hired 3 architects. You were one of them, and you
Yeah.
didn't know it, but you were competing with them
Wow.
for us to continue the project. And he goes, you were the only one that listened. You're the only one that manifested what we were looking for
Hmm.
after we trusted you with everything we told you and you wrote it down and were trying to achieve. So that was probably one of the coolest part about that story, or that project, and finding out later. And like I'm so grateful to them for hiring us, for trusting us.
Yeah.
I told them even during the interview process, I go, God picked me to be your architect. Like he picked me
Yeah.
specifically to do your house, and they're convinced too, literally, of that sort of providential kind of thought process. But if we didn't have that house in our portfolio, I'm not sure where we'd be today. I think we'd still be in business and doing fine, but I don't think we'd be doing as well. I don't think we'd be on the kind of path we are now where we're replicating them. So it's just like one of my favorite projects that I've done, and I'm 42, and we've done a lot.
I like the fact that you mentioned God, because I know a lot of people shy away from their faith and the God factor in their success, because people are like, oh, I'm a self-made millionaire, I'm a self-made billionaire, but really you're not necessarily self-made. There's a force higher than us that actually guides us and gives us the idea and the wisdom. Just like how you said F9 came about. It came about from a recession that you went through. That idea came about. God put that idea in your heart, and He has been guiding you through the process and helping you to meet up with His clients. And it's interesting because I'm just very grateful to God for this podcast, because I've been meeting fellow faith-based creators, faith-based businessmen and women, real estate investors, and they just always point back to God as the source and sustainer. And I mean, God is the ultimate architect, as you put it. So have you ever built your own dream house? I know it's easy for you to build dreams for other people. Have you built your dream house?
Yeah. Yes. 2
Nice.
times actually. And
Oh.
I'm already considering a third. So the first house that I built for myself and my wife and our 4 children, we were actually, that's when we actually were building. We just finished it, and then we moved in November of 2015, when at the same time we were working on the second set of tiny houses for Subaru. So I'm very grateful and blessed to have that opportunity. Thank God a lot for everything, but specifically with that opportunity I got with my wife to design and build that house. I have two biological children of my own. She has 2 of her own. And what it was we ended up, I don't know if you're familiar with the Brady Bunch, probably like that old 70s, 80s television show.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
the
No.
dad, the dad is an architect, which, Greg Brady, he's the architect.
Okay.
So, and they joined families just like us, where she had family, she had kids from a different marriage, I had kids from a different marriage, and he had to architect his house, their house, to make it work for the Brady Bunch, right? So we were kind of like the Brady Bunch. We had looked at existing houses quite a bit leading up to the idea that we were going to move in together and get married and all this other stuff. And nothing would really suit us because we had just very particular, trying to blend a family and that big in modern day America. We just came to the conclusion that we needed to design and build our own house. So we found a lot really close to where I'm sitting even now. It's about 5 minutes away. Beautiful lot. We got a good deal on it. And then she and I worked together. And it was a fun exercise. She took over basically all of the, like, the colors, the materials, and I was in charge of the bones and the form and the function of the project. So what I'm really proud of about that house is that it ended up being, and I use it often when I'm talking to folks who come to us and they go, look, I need our project to be under this many square feet, but I also need all these bedrooms and everything. And I can confidently tell them that I go, hey, and then I pull up my house that's on our website, and I say, look, I designed and built one for my own family, and it's a let's see, how many bedrooms? 4, 5, 6. It's a 7-bedroom.
Wow.
Or sorry, 8-bedroom.
What?
5.5 bath
Wow.
house, 3 levels, including the basement, but it's only 3,400 square feet. And they go, no way. And I go, look,
How did
I'll
you
pull up
do
the,
that? Okay, you're an
well,
architect, so I
yeah,
wouldn't ask
exactly. I
how.
go, and then I kind of brag a little bit and I say, like, hey, like, that's why you want to hire us, is because we're
Yeah.
masters of space planning, which kind
Yes.
of ties back into what we were talking about earlier, Stephanie, about, like, I knew even with my house,
Hmm.
I didn't have unlimited funds.
Mhm.
And I knew where we needed to probably strip out costs. But one thing I would not let go of is like getting a floor plan just
Hmm.
about perfect for me, my wife, our 4 kids, our 2 dogs, and and then needing to like, host families and have an office and everything like that. So that house I'm very proud of. It's called the Strawberry Circle House.
Oh,
If people go look at on the website for it.
yeah. I think we'd also put the pictures on the pod so people will get to have a feel of what it looks like alongside the website description. That'll be amazing. So you teach in a university. Like, when did that start? Was this before or after F9?
It was after F9.
Oh,
So
wow.
when we we started for about 3 years, right? We started in 2010, 2013. We just barely paid our bills, barely paid ourselves, barely
Yeah.
making it, coming out of the Great Recession. Well, the economy started to take off in 2013 down here in Colorado, and we found ourselves needing to hire people. So we wanted to go local, meaning we just wanted to reach out to the University of Colorado Boulder, and we did, and we said, hey, we have some job openings. Could you guys put these flyers up? We got a bunch of inquiries. People were hungry for internships.
Yeah.
And everybody that we interviewed was just not turnkey, meaning they just didn't know the software that we needed them to know so that we could employ them and they could start making themselves money and making us money and helping out our clients and everything.
Yeah.
So we reached out to that. So we reached out again and we go, hey, we're experts in this design software. It's called Revit Architecture. We also each have master's degrees, and that allows you to teach at a university very easily if you have a master's degree. And we go, if you ever have any openings, we would be happy to teach this software to your students.
Yeah.
Because half of it was being selfish and going, we want to make it so your students are employable for us. Right. And they said, well, we don't have any openings in our department, but in the engineering department we do. And it might be perfect. So the class is called Engineering Drawing. And Alex, my business partner, still teaches it. I used to co-teach it with him. I subsequently started teaching other things in a different department about 4 or 5 years ago. But that's how we got into teaching. So, it was just us reaching out. And then my alma mater, North Dakota State, reached out not this year, but last year, and ended up teaching 2 semesters up there. And it was just putting ourselves out there and saying we're available, I think is one of the biggest things that people are looking for. And I think maybe shouldn't overlook if they're just trying to get involved and do things and help people out. If you can be a positive resource for people in any of those kind of ways, people will take advantage of that and go like, yes, you obviously want to be here. You want to do these things. I think you're capable. And we'll make it happen. And so I'm not actually teaching this semester, but next semester in the fall, I should resume back at CU Boulder teaching architecture again.
So students, if you want to learn from the greatest mind, Lance Cayko, so sign up for university. That's a good that's a good way to promote the uni. Like, make sure you get into the Aki department. So, because Lance is going to be taking the course that semester. And I like the fact that you're teaching because you're giving back to society in a way, because you're basically mentoring the next generation. You don't have to. You could have just done like a conference and make money out of it, but you're investing your time and giving out your time. Yes, you get paid for it, but you can't compare the amount of money you will make from doing conferences and maybe TED Talks and whatnot. So I like the fact that you're giving out to the society and you're trying to build your local community. That's very impressive. And
thank you. Yeah, and thank you for recognizing that too, Stephanie. Yes, yes, your time is compensated, but it is nowhere near what you make if you're like me, a practicing principal of a firm that bills out over $1 million every year type of thing, right? So yeah, I just really enjoy it. I don't think I'll ever stop teaching. I don't even think I'll retire at all. I mean, I just love everything I do, from the architecture to the building to the real estate development to teaching, and even my philanthropy with our nonprofit. So.
Wow. So what key ideas do you emphasize to your students to prepare them for the real world?
Yeah. Well, one of the things is I try to instill with them that, you should make the sacrifice now in terms of time, and reassure them that like, this is one of the few times you'll have to do that. So I used to just live in the design studio at school. I mean, I would only go home to sleep basically, and that was about it. And it pays off so much because everybody's heard, a lot of people have heard the rule of thumb of like 10,000 hours. You become a master in something after you spend 10,000 hours in it, right?
Mm.
And whether it is really 10,000, it doesn't matter. It's you know, it could be 5,000, but it's a lot of time and just
Yeah.
dedicating yourself to that. So that's number one, is that they should take their architectural design studios very, very seriously, the most seriously out of all the courses that they take if they want to be an architect. And then the second thing is that I think they should try to work construction 1 or 2 summers during school.
Yeah.
Really get out there and get dirty,
Uh-huh.
and because it'll give them an empathy for the people they're drawing for,
Yeah.
right? Because there's big difference. It's like architects draw, they don't actually build.
Uh-huh.
General contractors and builders build, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're at odds because the
Sure.
architecture community does not know how things actually get physically built in the field, and they need to know that. So that's the second one. And then the third one is then I just recommend like a couple different books to them that I think are super helpful. Well, the biggest one I recommend for them is I recommend The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that they should
I love
read
that
that.
book.
Isn't it
Yeah.
good? And they should take it seriously. And like
Yeah.
that's how they should treat themselves. That's how they should operate in school, out of school, and basically like for the rest of their lives.
That's really profound because you're not just giving them theory, you're giving them practical steps to be useful in the real world. And I like what you said about the 10,000 hours part, because in as much as we like to say God will redeem time, time passes, to be honest, time passes. And if you don't make the most of the time you have right now, it's going to pass you by. One of my biggest examples, so I'm a chartered accountant, and I got chartered while I was still in school. Many of my mates, you could do the accounting exams after school. I mean, it's easier for you to do that, but you wouldn't necessarily have that time and focus to do it anymore. Because once you're outside of school, you're looking for a job, you're trying to make ends meet because your parents are no longer supporting you. But while you're in school, you have that luxury of time because you know that I'm reading anyway, so let me make the most of my reading. So the only time I ever went home for school break was in my first semester in university. From the second semester, I wrote for the accounting exams, and being an undergraduate, you have more papers to take because you're still in developmental stages. So all through my years in school, I was just spending my time prepping for my accounting exams, passing the ones I had to pass, and moving on to the next stage. So by the time I was done with university, I was already chartered, and I got into the real world of accounting. My very first work experience I had, like you said, it's not one thing to draw; it's another thing to see, to be in the position and bring that drawing to life, like the builders and the construction workers. So I started my career in finance, core accounting in a fintech organization. I was in the financial control team, and I was able to walk through different areas of the business: accounts payables, accounts receivables, taxes, treasury, financial control. And it helped me build a well-rounded mindset on how things work, how organizations work, how internal controls work. So when I moved on to the Big Four in Deloitte, I already had a fair understanding of how business work. I know what I'm looking out for while I'm auditing, and I know how these transactions came about. And I can be more empathetic in asking questions because I've been on the other side of the table, so I could relate. So all the information you're giving to your students are spot on, really, and I really hope they take the advice. You're not just giving them great advice; it's actually practical advice on how to move forward. And you mentioned one thing, said your firm uses the design build method because you're not just designers, you also help in building out the projects. So why do you prefer this model, and how does it benefit your clients?
So we are design plus build, as you just said,
Yeah.
exactly. And we're selective about who we'll build for. They need to meet
Okay.
a couple parameters.
Okay.
Number one, they have to be within a 45-minute radius of our Northern Colorado office, because I need to be able to get to the job site in case there's an emergency, and there are emergencies that happen. Number two, they need to be cash, meaning a lot of people just are self-financed. They don't have to get a loan through a bank. It's just a pain in the butt with the bank. And then the third, we got to like them, because what we're essentially extending the business relationship with them for at least another 18 to 24 months. If you include the warranty time we have to put on our buildings, because after we're done, then we say, they're warranted for a year if something goes
Yeah.
wrong. So, but the way it benefits people, even if we don't end up building for them, is we're their architects first with a builder's hat metaphorically on at all times.
Yeah.
So it's relating also to what we just talked about too, Stephanie, about us being more empathetic to the guys and the gals out there risking their lives to build the buildings that we're designing every single day, and making it as easy and as clear cut as possible about how they can interpret our drawings to then get the buildings built successfully. So that's been a huge, and we're constantly improving. So I'm constantly bringing the information back from the field to my architects who drew the stuff, and helping us improve so that everybody's understanding what we're drawing and designing better, and we're just making things easier for everybody.
Nice. Let's backtrack a bit. When you talked about the tiny houses, how it is able to collect rain and refine that water, and you also have inbuilt solar panels in the houses. So I got to see that sustainability is clearly important in your work. So what simple steps would you recommend to someone looking to make their home or projects more eco-friendly?
Yeah, the first thing is pay very close attention to your site. Where are you thinking about buying a piece of land, an existing building, and whatever? And so if you're in the northern hemisphere, then you can solve 90% of the sustainable issues of heating and cooling the building if you pick the proper site. Something with very good southern exposure, very good northern protection. Maybe there's like a strip of evergreen trees or a big berm, like
Yeah.
a hill on the north side of your house or the property that you're going to buy, so that it protects you from the wind. Can you then design a house or a building that is elongated in the east-west axes? Because then that'll allow it to capture more of that nice, beautiful winter sun. I hope offset, what it takes with fossil fuels and carbon oil and everything to heat and cool the building.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is if you can just pay attention to the site and understand what it means for you in terms of sustainability. Because if you pick like let's say you bought a piece of land in Colorado, for example, that was on the north slope of a mountain, that would be very hard to heat with just natural sun rays, right?
Oh,
But
yeah,
if you
that
can
makes
find one
sense.
that's in the south slope, then you're setting yourself up for success. The last 10% of the sustainable problem is then tackled with like nitty gritty, kind of nerdy details about, increased insulation values, a better building envelope that's detailed and built by your architect and builder, solar panels. Like that stuff is actually at the very end. 90% of the problem is site orientation. So picking the best site is the way to go. And don't be afraid to reach out to an architect, even when you are not under contract to buy that site, and see it benefits you so greatly to just maybe pay them like an hour or two of their time to do a quick site test, and to just see like how big of a footprint you're suggesting for your house or building, whatever you want to put on the land, if it can fit there, if it lends itself to sustainable passive practices.
Yeah. That's amazing. Lance, you're in one of many hats. You're hosting the Inside the Firm podcast. So how has that shaped your approach to running your business and working with clients?
Yeah, we started the podcast, let's see, almost 7 years ago, 8 years ago,
Wow.
2017. Yeah, 8 years ago. We started it in 2017 because that would have been our 7th year we were in business. And if people who have business prowess and history, they know that that's a key year, because that's when you step out of being a startup and become a seasoned firm or company, whatever it is that you're running. And so we got to year 7 and we were like, oh my God, I think we're not going to fail. Like, I think we're going to continue. This is going to be okay. We should tell more people in our generation. And I ride 2 different generations, because I'm a little bit Gen X and I'm a little bit millennial. And I
In the
was
middle.
like,
It's
yeah,
sweet in the middle.
in the middle. It's called Zillennial, actually. And so I was like, we should tell our story to the world, because I want to inspire people. who
Yeah.
feel defeated by the media, that think like the American dream is dead, you can't be an entrepreneur, and share that vision with them. And we've gotten we've kept the podcast going for 8 years. As I said, we're almost at episode 700, and
Wow.
it's done multiple things for us. One of the coolest things is we get fan mail. People will text me, people will DM me on like LinkedIn or Facebook, or email us directly, or call us even. Sometimes we even have fans that stop by the office, which is pretty wild. But I get so many of them that just say, thank you for just sharing everything that you've shared and being so open and honest about it. You guys inspired me to start a business. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's huge. That's just huge. What a
Yes.
reward to get from people. And so the way it's worked with helped our business though is we have gotten some clients who found us in this way. But the biggest thing is I think it puts a mirror up to me and Al all the time, and we consistently become better public speakers by doing podcasts like this, and and ours as well.
Yeah.
But then it also, like, I meet so many interesting people. I have like these authors that come on our show, and there's been so many times I've been like halfway through the interview with them, I literally buy the book, and then I read the book, and then I can't quit talking about the book, and then I recommend the book, and then maybe we even end up reading the book as a staff.
Wow.
So just self-improvement has been a big one, professional and personal, from the many people I've interacted with and had on our show.
Yeah, and aside that, networking with people, getting your brand out there, because at the end of the day, it's about telling your story, and no one can tell your story better than you. So why don't you take a mic and drop it like it's hot? So what interesting trends would you say we would expect in the architecture and constructing industry the next couple of years? Because you guys are the trend setters, in it. You're the ones that build, that draw the design and envision the future.
Mhm.
So what should we expect in the next couple of years?
A lot more remodels. So I don't
Okay.
think we're going to see as much brand new construction on greenfield sites, sites that are
Hmm.
just like
Yeah.
haven't been touched really. I think we're going to see a lot of these big office buildings, big box stores that have went out of business, old malls be retrofitted into mixed use developments where there's some business but more residential than typical. We're doing one right now. We're desperately trying to wrap it up. It's just been kind of a slog at the end, where we did exactly that. We partnered with a developer in the town we operate in mostly, and it was a 3-story commercial building now that we've taken the top 2 floors and turned them into apartments. We've learned a lot of lessons from that project, and hopefully we'll carry them into new stuff. And we've got some other properties identified with him where we're going to try to also rehab those and reuse them. So I think there's going to be and I really like that because like the carbon is already embodied in those projects. So for us to adapt and reuse them
Yeah.
and give them another life is one of the most sustainable things you can do. So I think architects and builders really need to be looking at and embracing reusing a lot of these buildings we have in America for different purposes.
So aside the American markets, do you delve into other markets like the European market, Asian markets, or you just focused on the US dream for now?
Oh, just the US dream for now. Yeah. I had at one point thought about buying some stuff in Brazil because that's where my dad's from, but since then, nope. I'm just concentrated on Colorado.
Okay, amazing. Because why I asked that question is because when we watch cartoons or watch stuff, they said, oh, in the future the houses will be flying and all that, or they're shaped differently. They're shaped like saucers and spoons and whatnot. So that's why I was like, okay, are we expecting that in the near future, or that's just AI gimmicks? So
Yeah.
let's talk about a bit of downtime. So everyone faces setbacks. Can you share challenging moments from your career and how you're able to overcome it, manage and overcome the setback?
Yeah. One of the biggest ones was where we originated, which is working. Alex and I worked very hard in school. We were
Yeah.
those people that put in the 10,000 hours. We graduated at the top of our class. I was number 1. He was number 2.
Hmm.
It landed us very prestigious internships, only for us to be let down by those people who were just really bad at business. But that was one of the best bad things that ever happened to me. And it took me about 40 years. I'm 42 to know why, to better define what that situation is.
Mm.
And it comes down to, it's actually a law of physics, and it's the law of polarity. So you can't have a negative and not a positive. You can't have a positive and not a negative. You can't have just night. You have to have day too, right? You have all these, there's the yin and the yang of life.
Yeah.
And what I really have learned to embrace is when something bad happens, I actually get way more excited than if it's just good, 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 good. Because if it's
Yeah.
just good, 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 I'm waiting for that negative,
Mm-hmm.
that rug to be pulled out.
Yeah.
And instead, if it's negative, it's like, when's the positive? Like, here we go. So every time I have a big setback like that, God just blesses me and whoever I'm working with, professionally or personally,
Yeah.
with one of the most positive reactions after that. And our success at F9 and the way we built the firm is exactly based on
Mm.
the opposite of that negative layoff that Alex and I both experienced.
So when you said this, it just took me back to a particular scripture I love, and which is in John chapter 10, verse 10. It says, this is where Jesus says, I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. That some other versions will say, I have come that you may have life and have it to the full. So essentially, what is a full life? People would think that a full life is just a life of abundance, but that's not what it is. Because if you've only known abundance, then you don't know if that is abundance. Because you should have experienced scarcity, then you'll know what abundance means in it. So a full life is basically ups and downs. That's what makes the full circle. So, and that is essentially the type of life we're supposed to live here on earth. It doesn't have to be all rosy. Jesus says it's not going to be all rosy, but not to worry, he has overcome the world. So, like you said, these challenges come true so that you can get into another era, another season, and it shapes you for the next step that you need to take. So without that challenges, without you getting laid off, you wouldn't have been able to own your own company. Now you wouldn't have been able to. You wouldn't even have the time to teach in universities because you'd be focused on your next promotion.
Yeah. 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 You're absolutely right. I know. Exactly. Exactly. It's, I'm just so thankful again. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's like the Holy Spirit whispering in my ear and like telling me, like, I'm helping me understand. And I
Hmm.
actually learned about the law of polarity when what I would do is I was doing a lot of guesting on podcasts like yours.
Hmm.
And this was like 2 3 years ago. Like I said, I started to do a lot of guesting instead of
Yeah.
just being a host.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept describing these negative and then positive, negative and then positive. And they go, oh, you're describing the law of polarity. I mean, I learned it on just networking with people, and I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for that.
Amazing. So you've been able to successfully transition from construction into running your own company. What advice would you give to someone else considering a similar career change?
Yeah, exactly. If you're looking at starting your own business, I
Mm.
think there's the number one thing that you should try to do is be the best communicator you can. And
Mm.
it starts with first understanding who you're communicating with, and you
Yeah.
have to identify with them.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best form of communication for you? You know, is it email? Is it a phone call? Is it a text? Is it a combination? Is it Slack?
Mm.
And you have to capitulate to their best form of communication. And then you need to follow some fundamental rules. And we have so F9 is there's 9 principles that we follow at F9. And number 4 is communication. Our staff and myself are trained to get back to anybody we're working with, whether it's a client or a partner or a consultant or whatever.
Yeah.
We have to get back to them within 1 hour. If they email us, text us, call. It doesn't always happen, but it mostly happens.
Okay.
And even if like we don't have the full answer to their big question, it's at least us saying, hey, I see your question. My day is stacked. I promise you I'll get back to it with a more detailed answer and response by tomorrow
Mm.
at the same time. And then the second half of that rule is they have to get back in full capacity within 24 hours. Just being a good communicator and being proactive
Mm.
is almost everything, actually, because you already have your skills, hopefully, right? So like if you're
Yeah.
coming out of construction as just a worker for somebody with
Mm-hmm.
whatever trade you have, well, you know that trade. Like that's not
Yes.
going away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody expects that. What they don't expect is, and what they are craving is good communication, especially in today's society.
Yeah, that's one thing, because communication is the lifeblood of every business, every relationship, because businesses are just all about relationships. If you don't maintain a proper relationship with your clients, you lose them. And being a service-oriented business, then it thrives on relationship, and relationships thrives on communication. So yeah, okay. We need to nick that in the bud. So move forward. One question I wanted to ask you is, are you into real estate investments? Do you do that on the side, or you're just focused on your design and build business?
Well, yeah. So what we did is after we built the second two tiny houses for
Mm-hmm.
Subaru, we
Yeah.
finally made enough money to execute one of our dreams. And one of our dreams was we wanted to wear all three hats. We were
Hmm.
already the architects, we were
Yeah.
the builders because we
Builders.
built those tiny houses,
Yeah.
and then we wanted to be the real estate developer too.
Thank you.
And so we made enough money off of that job
Hmm.
that we bought a third of an acre
Wow.
in the same town that we operate in. And I'm actually sitting in one of the buildings right now that is
Wow.
ours. So we ended up making a mixed use community. It's
Hmm.
a triplex and a sixplex. In the sixplex, which is behind me,
Hmm.
is we kept two of the townhomes that we built for ourselves as investment properties. The first one is me, Alex, and I just co-own together, and the second one I own by myself, and I
Yeah.
actually live there. So it's still an investment property from that.
Mhm.
But then we also own now, the building I'm sitting in, which is our office building. So we turn that real estate development company into an investment company. And I think in a couple of years, we're going to be looking at doing the same thing again in a different capacity. I just needed to make sure that I caught the building company back up and
Hmm.
made sure we're in a really good place to where I have proper staff in place for the
Yeah.
next development. So that's the leap we took, and what it's done for our business is huge. It's not so much that we have this equity in these buildings, and we do, right,
Hmm.
or then we're continually getting paid through them through rent and everything else. When I walk prospective clients through our building and they
Yeah.
come and meet us at the office, I get to tell them I design, built, develop it. They have the utmost confidence after they meet with us because
Hmm.
they don't get to meet a lot of the architects who've worn all three hats. And so
Yeah.
it's given us a leg up in that kind of a way. And I just feel more confident. My staff feels more confident because we left a lot of the structure exposed in like mechanical rooms so that they can learn from it. So yeah, that's been our experience with real estate investment so far.
Wow, that's really amazing. And I love the fact that you're able to wear all three hats and maximize your potential that way. Because I know some people might just be focused on, oh, I'm an architect, let me just stick to being an architect. But you've smashed all boundaries and you're just getting better and better. I'm really grateful for that. I think you should give a TED talk, because people would really want to listen to your strategies, how you've been able to combine. And it still um blows my mind, the fact that you're a lecturer, you're teaching in universities. How do you even have time to do that while managing your business and being a successful entrepreneur and living in your dream house?
Yeah.
You're just amazing. So let's talk about your passion for fishing. So has this passion influenced your professional life or the way you approach your work?
I incessantly got back. So when I was in second grade,
Hmm.
our teacher asked, and a lot of people have been asked this in elementary school, what do you want to be? Draw what you want to be, write what you want to be when you're big.
Yeah.
And I wrote professional fisherman. And my mom never
Hmm.
let me let that down or forget about it. And before we started at F9, the first
Uh,
company,
yeah.
I had heard from another entrepreneur say, you should try all of your business ideas before you're 40. Because if you fail,
Yeah.
you still have time in your 40s to recover financially and potentially retire, right? And I
Hmm.
was like, okay. And so I 39, 40, right around there. And I had been raising 4 children and having all these businesses, raising them essentially. And I didn't have any time to really do what I originally moved to Colorado for, which is like, I primarily moved here for the mountains and the outdoor scene and like literally
Hmm.
fishing. And all of a sudden my children became adolescents and they frankly didn't want anything to do with us. They just wanted to go hang out with their friends. And I was like, whoa, I'm kind of like a sort of like a single
Free.
dad. Like I
Yeah,
have
I'm
all this
free.
free time. Yep.
Yes.
And I was like, I forgot about fishing. So
Hmm.
I just became re-obsessed with the whole thing, and just couldn't stop, to the point where like I was going every Saturday, every Sunday. I started
Hmm.
taking Wednesdays off, and then I started a YouTube channel called Fishing with Lance,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
I started to pursue that professional dream. Um,
Nice.
we get we get revenue from the videos we put out, and we get sponsors from people that provide fishing gear and
Hmm.
clothing and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm the pro staff on Fish Angler. So what it's all done for me is I even take employees with me sometimes, just on
Oh.
the weekends, and like give them a bunch of fish and all of that. It's just reminded me that the best thing for me, and what I've been really trying to encourage other people to do, especially if they're entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
is shift our thinking from a work-life balance to a work-life harmony.
Hmm.
Because what I don't like about the phrase work-life balance is that for me, it conjures up in my brain an image of a scale
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
like you're balancing and trading one thing for the other.
Yeah.
Whereas if we think about it like a work-life harmony, how can our professional and personal lives blend together in harmony to where we're not trading one for the other?
Yeah.
And that's really what it's done for me.
Wow. That's very different. Work-life harmony. This is the first time I'm ever hearing such. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to
So
bring it into the ether. So hopefully you
you
do
need
the same.
you need to have a TED Talk. I keep telling you that you need to go to a TED Talk and share
Thank
about
you so
this.
much.
Work-life harmony. You need to share about how you're wearing three hats at the same time and how you're combining that with teaching at two universities. You're not just you came out tops in your class, so we need to hear more from you, Lance.
I love the encouragement. I will look into it.
Yes. So we've come to this section. It's called the firecracker section. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So what happens in this section is that I ask you a bunch of questions and you fire back at me. First thing that comes to your mind, no much thinking. So question number one, if you have unlimited resources, what's a dream project you would tackle and why?
To educate the United States population in particular
Hmm.
on what an architect actually does and what they don't do.
Wow. Nice. I think, okay, I just keep having different visions for you. I think you should be a United Nations ambassador for architecture or sustainability or something. I just keep having
If
so
you ever
much.
see, yeah, you can nominate me. That'd be great.
I would nominate you over and over again. So, second question, what's one misconception about architecture or the construction industry you would love to clear up?
Architects don't build things. We draw
Hmm.
things, we design things, we plan for things, but we don't build things.
Okay. The last question. So, fast forward 10 years from now, what would you want your legacy to look like?
The one that we haven't touched on too much, but I will talk about now is I have a nonprofit. It's called Longmont Community Gardens,
Hmm.
and what we do is we promote sustainable urban farming. So we have
Okay.
these community gardens in cities, and
Hmm.
where I live in is Longmont. And last year I won a federal USDA grant. It was for $86,000, and it allowed us to double the size of our gardens. And we even made a whole new one. So in 10 years, I would love it if I had the same problem that the original nonprofit Growing Gardens had
Hmm.
when they gave me the first garden and allowed me to make my own nonprofit and then double the size of it. They got so big they had to give local control back to everybody
Wow.
because they were so successful in growing the gardens. And so from 10 years to now, I would love that same problem, to where I'm going, wow, my nonprofit has grown so much. I actually
Yeah.
kind of need to dissolve it and give it and cut it up so other people make their own nonprofits.
That would be amazing. That is why I said you need to be United Nations ambassador for sustainability.
Thank you.
So, Lance, how can we reach you? Your socials, your website? I know I'll put all the links in the description, but just let us know how we can reach you.
Sure. Everybody for sure should go to YouTube, type in Fishing with Lance. They should subscribe to the channel. They should go to LinkedIn and they should type in my first name, Lance, then my last name, Cayko, and send me a LinkedIn request. I will link in with anybody. And they should go to f9productions.com, sign up for our newsletter, check out everything we're doing. And last but certainly not least, they should check out InsideTheFirmPodcast.com and follow along with us. We have 2 episodes each week that air on Monday and Friday.
And you forgot to tell them to sign up for your classes. You'll be teaching in fall semester.
Yeah. Come be a student. You'll be great.
Come be a student. I think your university needs to pay you for promoting the course. So, guys, it's been an amazing session with Lance today. We've learned a whole lot, and that's it from that episode with the Breaks and Bank podcast with Steph. I remain your host as we continue to turn knowledge into action and breaks into bank. So then, see you later. Bye. Okay.